Hey everybody, I'm Chelsea from the Build Book support team, and today we're going to build a budget together. Now, typically, budgets are already created because most of the time our pros are using our opportunities, creating an estimate, sending that estimate out to your client for approval, and then converting that opportunity over to a project so that it converts all of the information from the opportunity over into the project financials. However, sometimes you may not want to start with an opportunity. You might just get something on the fly, or you might not start with opportunities at all. And in that case, you can really easily build your budget from the financials tab. So in the project, in the financials tab, you'll notice that if you don't have anything in here, everything is going to be blank. This is exactly how the budget is going to be laid out for everybody, no matter if you convert this over to a project from an opportunity or if you start it from scratch. So if you convert it from an opportunity, all of this information will be filled out for you. Whereas if you don't, it's all going to be blank, just like so. Now to start building your budget, you're going to click on the budget tab. And then there are a couple of ways that you can build your budget. So if you've added items to your price book already, you can just click on add from price book. Or you can click on add new item. So if you haven't added your most used items to your price book, I'll show you how you can do that once you've created an item. But I would highly recommend adding those items to your price book or using another project essentially as a template for this budget. That way you're not having to create huge budgets all from scratch all the time. To start, you just add new item. And then this little book right here, this will allow you to choose any of the items that you've already added to your price book. But if you haven't, you're just going to create the item. You can assign it to a cost code. Every item within our budget has to have a cost code assigned to it. So any items in your estimates and your budgets, you'll notice they all have to have cost codes. Now, if you don't use cost codes, that's okay. It's going to generate a cost code for you, which is our 99000 kind of uncategorized cost code. Otherwise, you could search through here for what you needed. So this is steel. There we go, if I could spell it correctly. And I can now assign this particular item to that cost code, which is rebar and reinforcing steel. I can then choose my type, so either labor, flat fee, materials, selections, or subcontractor. I'm going to choose materials. My status, all the time, whenever you're creating a budget, you can create your status as it'll create it as not started for you. You can switch this if you want to open or completed, but the default is always going to be not started. And most often than not, we have a lot of pros who just don't even use the status at all to track these types of items, although you definitely can if you want to. So if you know that you've already ordered that rebar or you've already kind of got a bid for something, you can leave it as open. And then, of course, once everything is installed and ready, you can mark it complete. Within your type, depending on which type you choose, that's going to choose kind of your information down here. So you'll notice that labor has the same amount of information, but things like flat fee are going to remove the unit quantity because these are just a flat fee. So we're essentially saying that this is the price for one of those items, period. Same thing with the subcontractor. You'll notice that we have a subcontractor item type that is very close to flat fee. This is for if you're going to be essentially using subcontractor labor and you just want to pay them via the job or via that one piece of the budget that they're controlling. So we've added this again as a flat fee as well, since there are no units necessarily to this particular type. And then additionally, selections only allows you to put in an allowance. That allowance is a placeholder amount for things. So this is essentially like an estimated amount within your budget. We'll choose materials, and then I can choose between a ton of different material types. These types also appear, or not these specific types, but most of these appear also in labor. So you'll notice that in labor, we have hours, days, weeks, and month, and then we have the material types as well in here for you to choose from. We'll choose square feet. I can optionally tax this. So this tax box is essentially, as long as I have a tax rate added to my account, I'll be able to use this tax box. And essentially what we'll do is we'll add the tax at the very end. But since this is materials and I live in an area that taxes materials, I'm going to click that tax box. You can select your quantity and then your unit cost. The quantity plus the unit cost or times the unit cost is what makes up this cost. So you'll notice if I put, each rebar piece or for a square foot of rebar, it's say $10. The cost is going to be $10. And as I add additional quantity to this, it's going to adjust this cost. So quantity times unit cost is what makes this particular cost. This is a little bit of a misnomer within our budget. This cost is not shown anywhere else except for in this budget item. So you'll notice as you begin adding bills and expenses, you are going to see a cost column appear. That is not this cost column. This is just the cost of this particular item times that quantity. It has nothing to do with bills and expenses, which are money going out or actual cost on your project. This is just the cost for this one particular item. And then of course, cost plus markup is what's going to equal the price. So if you're using individual markup, you can do that here. You can just add a markup and that'll adjust the price. Or you can leave this blank. And then when we go through, we can actually add a management fee to the entirety of the budget. So we'll click on save here. Now, right off the bat, you'll notice that this has added this item and that this is what we call spreadsheet view of the budget. So when you start adding items, a lot of times it's going to pop up in this spreadsheet view just like this. That is totally fine. I actually like spreadsheet view while I'm building my budget, only because if I switch back to category view, it's going to show me the category, it's going to show me the item, but it's not going, I have to click into the item to make my adjustments and things like that. Whereas if I just click on the spreadsheet view right here, I can make all of my adjustments really easily. I can even delete these line items really quickly at any point in time. If I wanted to, I can also copy this item to my price book. So again, if you're using a ton of items all the time, you're using the same items, instead of just recreating these at any point in time, just click on copy to price book and it's going to add that item to your price book. So now when you want to go through and add more items from your price book, that one will be in there next time for you. Now, additionally, you have the option to add more items or add selection items. Selection items are essentially just going to add that type selection. And then at any point in time, if you make a mistake, you can really quickly and easily delete those line items just by clicking on the ellipsis menu and clicking on delete line item. We don't have a bulk delete or edit feature within the selections or financials. So in this case, I would definitely use the spreadsheet view and then the delete function if you're trying to go through and delete tons of items. The other option is to use add from price book. So you'll be able to add from any items that you already have from your price book, and you can click on entire categories, or you can scroll down a little bit and select all. If you wanted to select everything in your price book, you could just deselect all, or you could use this really awesome tags function that we have. Tags are really nice because they kind of group information together for you. So I know if I'm, this is a brand new home, I'm probably going to be looking for anything that has my new construction tag to it. So I can select that particular tag and it's going to check off every single item that I currently have in my budget or in my price book with that particular tag attached to it. Now, it's not going to condense the list down for you. So you'll notice sometimes, like what happened here is if you don't see it check anything, it could be checking things that are further down here. So you'll notice as I go down through my price book, it has selected everything that has that particular tag on it. But we don't condense that list down because you may need to add more stuff. So I might need to add a design layout. I might need to add more tags or different tags in here. Maybe a custom home tag or something like that. So we give you that option at any point in time to just be able to add more items without having to go back through the price book and add more that way. Now, once you've selected your items, you're going to click on Add 64 items down here, and that is going to add every single item to your budget, just like so. And then again, very typically what happens, of course, within our price book and our budgets is you don't actually have to add pricing to things. So whenever you're creating your budget, anything that you have in your price book that has a price, you can really quickly and easily go and adjust that. Or like a lot of our pros do, they don't add any pricing to their price book. They're simply adding items. And then that way they can go through on their budget and just really quickly fill in, it's going to be $500 for the dumpster. It's going to be $350 for liability insurance. The interior design I know is going to be $1,500. That type of stuff. Whereas, if you try to add that from your price, add that to your price book, and then the pricing changes, you're just going to have to go through and do this anyways. So this is a much easier option for you. Of course, once you switch over to category view, you're going to notice that it lines everything out in the categories. So even if you make adjustments within your spreadsheet view, you'll notice that it doesn't actually make those adjustments in the category view. It's not able to do that for you. And clients do see everything broken out into the category view just so it's easier to digest that kind of information. One of the things I want to really quickly highlight is this cost right here. So again, you'll notice that within the items themselves, they're going to have a unit cost and then a cost. So you'll notice that when I add, $350 right here, it'll show up in the cost right here. But a lot of people will get confused and say, well, why isn't it showing up in the cost right here? This cost column here, as well as in your budget summary, that is not the item's cost. That is any of the bills and expenses that have been added to that particular item. Bills and expenses are money going out on your project. This is what you have to go spend in order to make this design layout happen. So maybe I want to track that. Although I charge $350 for this, maybe the actual price is only $325. I can then go through and add a bill and expense to show that it's $325 here. One last thing I want to tell you as far as cost or invoice within the budget. This cost is not designed to do anything to this price. So you'll notice that you have cost, invoice, estimated, and price. The cost is all bills and expenses that are going out that have been tied to this item. The invoice means that you have added this item to the invoice and that this is how much you've added as per that item. We have progressive invoicing within BuildBook. So if you want to know more about that, I would definitely check out our invoice articles. The estimated is typically going to be blank if you're creating your budget from scratch. Now, if you've pulled over price book items that had pricing, you'll notice that this gets filled out. But otherwise, this particular column should really be mostly blank for you because you didn't estimate anything originally. You are creating this budget from scratch. So in that case, we'll only show you today's pricing. And then of course, the price is the actual today's pricing. So you can adjust this price at any point in time by clicking open an item and adjusting the price here. And if you want to, you can always add in an estimated price down here. So you can see like a baseline if you'd like. We have a lot of pros who will do that. They'll just add in, like, basically mimic this so that they can see a baseline price. And then that way, if they have to change anything up here, for example, they can add in that 350 with no markup, but maybe, now the design layout is actually costing me $400. I can really quickly and easily see that difference right here. So if you want to, you are more than welcome to add in those estimated prices, but very typically when you're creating your budget from scratch, these are not going to be added for you unless you've added that pricing to your price book items or you've pulled that over from your estimate. Finally, down at the bottom here, you're going to have the chance to either select a tax or select a management fee. The management fee is not a budget item technically. It essentially is going to add a fee to the entirety of the subtotal right here. So if you choose a fixed fee and you add in, let's say $5,000, it's simply going to add this 5,000 and then add these two numbers together to create this. Of course, tax is involved in that as well. If you choose a cost plus fee, then what it's designed to do is take basically the percentage fee right here of this total. So 25% of 17,462 is 4,365. That is what that is designed to do. And then of course, all of this plus tax is what equals that total. As far as tax goes, you are able to add multiple different tax rates or just do not tax. If you select do not tax, then you'll notice that all of your taxed items will fall off. You can click yes, change, and then it will show up as 0. If you ever need to change that again, you can use this tax drop down right here if you want to. We can add Summit County tax right there. So any of the items that I originally had with that checkbox for tax, that I have checked for tax, that is going to essentially be what shows up here. You can adjust these tax rates and things like that in your account. So team admins, team owners, they can adjust those tax rates and add them for you. And then you can just adjust them on your budget any point in time you want. And that's how easy it is to create your project budget. A couple of other things that you have options for is in the top right corner, you have the ability to print or export your budget. Printing the budget will essentially print it just like how you see it. It's going to print out your summary. It's going to print out the actual budget itself with exactly how it's laid out. You can adjust that information by choosing what you want to see essentially right here. Additionally, you have a budget export. This is going to export your budget as a CSV file. So I always like to say this is easier for clients to read if you're going to share that with clients. Otherwise, this is easier for banks to read if you're going to be doing, sending that stuff to like your bookkeepers or banks or something. This is usually easier for people to read. Finally, up here in the top right corner, you also have the ability to choose what the client sees. So I can either choose summary or detailed, and this will allow me to exactly show what I want to my client. So if I don't want them to see individual line items, descriptions, price, anything like that, I can literally click off those at any point in time, or I can switch over to summary and choose that they only see the categories. Whatever you want to do, you can do it here. And then all you have to do is hit apply changes. And if you're ever curious, you can click on see what client sees. That's the easiest way to add things to your budget. The final thing that I really quickly wanted to go over, because this is something that some of our folks miss every now and again. Within your category view or spreadsheet view, you'll notice that any item that is a selection right here is actually designed to create a selection category over here. These items can be deleted in either function. So you can delete a selection category off of your budget at any point in time. Oops. However, if you delete the selection category from your budget, it will tell you the items that are currently inside of it. But if you delete it from your budget, you will essentially be deleting that entire category and all of the items inside. So anytime I'm working with selections, I actually don't like to work with them on my budget at all. And the reason being is because I can't really see what's actually happening. So as far as selections go, my tip to you is working on the selections tab instead. That way I can really clearly and easily see that the selection category for Windows doesn't have anything. I can really easily delete it at any point in time, and it's not going to do anything to my budget necessarily. Whereas if I had a ton of stuff in here, I had a lot of selection, I had a lot of plumbing fixtures, I go through on the budget, I just really quickly delete it. it's going to delete everything within those plumbing fixtures. So all of the time that I spent adding in those selection items are going to be deleted, and there is no way for us to recover them. So thinking about your financials and working with your budget, if you see selections, I personally wouldn't actually deal with them here in the budget. You can add them to the budget at any point in time all day if you'd like to. But as far as managing those, I would not do that here in the budget. I would do that here in the selections. As always, if you ever need help with anything or have some questions, need some guidance, click on the question mark help icon in the top right corner. And as always, again, happy building.